If you're stuck, if you're stagnant, if your trading's not moving forward the way you think it should, if you tighten up in these 5 areas, I promise you in 2022, anything is possible. Hello, this is Jason E. and welcome to the Trading and Ascension YouTube channel, which is just a spinoff of the Trading and Ascension Podcast. On the podcast, on this channel, we only talk about the personal and the spiritual growth journey of profitable day trading. We deep dive into it, so I like to provide the science information, the spiritual information, things that you can apply to the scientific method in your life, and all of those things wrapped up and tied with a little bow to give us action steps so you can move forward as a better trader and a better human. So today I want to talk about change. And I want to talk about this because I always see in YouTube comments and in other videos that individuals, they'll say something to the effect of, I'm not getting any better. I've been trading since 2018 and I still suck and all these things. And so I want to present 5 things which I think will aid you in improving if you're one of those individuals. Now, self-improvement is the foundation, and I believe that there's a certain amount of change that you can do within yourself before you start getting to the skills of any respective business. And this is for anything on this planet. For example, in sports, there's the running and the conditioning. Right? So if you're in shape, if you're strong, that's going to be a benefit to any sport before you actually learn the rules of the sport and the dynamics of that sport. In business, it may be the communication. It may be the leadership. And those are things that you can work on within yourself to become better. Now in trading, there are a lot of intangibles, but the great thing about trading is that it puts us on a path to where the obstacle is the way. So we know what direction to move in based on the hurdles that we're facing. So we don't have to go hunting for these things. They'll arise within our trading, and then we can take those on from a personal and a spiritual growth point before we start even thinking about the strategy and the indicators and things like that. So I think the Trading Ascension message is underlying to the success of any trader. All right. Now, change happens in an instant. It's just that leading up to that instant can take weeks, months, years, sometimes a lifetime. All right. So we want to talk about what's going to get you to change in your business. Now, the first thing is we have to understand how change occurs. Change occurs from commitment. All right. From commitment. So you have to ask yourself, number one, what motivates you? When you changed before, think about the last time you changed a habit, quit something, started something, did something different, made a decision to go a different route in your life. Think about what motivated you. Was it something that maybe pushed you, right? You were the push motivated type where you're like, I'm tired of this pain. This sucks. I'm pushed from this situation to something else. Or were you pulled into it, right? Were you motivated because you saw a glimpse of something in the future and it pulled you towards that? You need to understand how you make change, right? Because that can help you in making changes in your trading. Now, that's the first one, is what motivates you. Now, number 2 is kind of how I started. It's commitment. You have to have a strong commitment. Anytime, and this is from, reading a lot of Joe Dispenza books, anytime there's individuals who make drastic changes in their health, in their life, it's because of a strong commitment. We have to have a commitment that carries the aptitude to override the hard wiring of the brain and the emotional conditioning of the body. All right. We have to break out of our old self. I always had a mentor that said, you can't, slowly walk out of the mud. You got to explode out of the mud. In your old situation, you have to explode out of this situation with some momentum. All right. So you have to make sure that you're committed. You have to make this decision with commitment and burn the boats and say, I'm doing this. So you have to ask yourself, if you're stuck in your trading, are you really committed to trading? Whether it's part-time, whether it's one trade a week, are you committed to that? Is it important to you? Is it a priority? Because when things are priorities, it's a lot easier to change. Number 3, after you've made that commitment, you have to make that commitment to the decision of what you're doing. And then the second thing, and most importantly, you have to make a commitment to the future self. When we focus on who we are, the person that we're being when we accomplish that goal versus the goal and the tangibleness of that goal, we can expedite our path and our results. So what this means is that, take a sip. What this means is that instead of focusing on, let's say your goal is to make $1,000 a month. Instead of focusing on this $1,000 a month, you want to focus on the person that creates that outcome in their life, because the person that's creating the results that you don't have is a different person from who you are. Now that may be hard for some to understand, but you have to build a relationship with this future person, and then you can start filling in the gaps. Now you do this by, one, coming up with a visualization of that person, you in the future, after they've accomplished this. And then you start working on the emotional and the sensory details. So when you're making, again, your goal is $1,000 a month in this example, when you're making that money, how does it feel? Right? At that moment, when you've done it for, 8 months in a row, what do you see? What do you smell? Are you looking in your trading book, drinking coffee? Right? And you can taste that. So you want to add your senses and sensory input to this moment, right? That way you can merge from your inner being into the person that's getting those results. It's a lot different from chasing things outside of us, because all change comes from within. Everything in this realm comes from within. Everything that you can see right now came from within the mind of somebody, right? And it manifested. So you want to self-actualize, which is manifesting self, by focusing on building the relationship with the future self. All right. So you're understanding what they think. And most importantly, you're understanding the decisions they make. Right. And we'll circle back to that as we get to some of these last steps. What decisions do they make? Right. And these decisions can be built off of the mistakes that you're making today, because your future self is going to make decisions differently. And life becomes real simple when you're focused on your future self, because you come to a crossroad and you say, is this getting me closer to my future self, further from my future self? And you make the right decision. All right. So that's number 3. That's the future self. Now, number 4 is a daily reconfirming this. And this is done with visualization daily, right? Because you want to build this relationship. You don't want to forget who you're becoming. You want to, like Joe Dispenza says, remember the future, because it's been rehearsed so much in your mind. So you're recommitting to this daily with meditation and with breathing exercises. And you can do those together. I talk a lot about that in the 2022 setting the right expectations and reaching your goals series on the podcast. But that information is readily available. I'm not going to deep dive into that. But that's number 4, that daily recommitment. And you're doing that by visualizing and breathing exercises. Now, before we go on to 5, I want to do 4B. Right. And 4B is because this is something Quasi said that I heard. He talked about being pulled and jolted back into the old you. And this happens a lot when we run into bumps on the road. Our confidence is shook, right? And this may be a losing trade. It may be you oversleep, don't get in the market, whatever it is. You want to make sure that you can frame any hurdles into the story of the future self. Now, this is done by making sure that you understand, like if you lose a trade, you understand that that is part of the journey. Right? Instead of the future me doesn't do that. I'm so far away from being that person. So a tool 4B is making sure that you are reframing the story of any hurdles in an empowering way. And usually that's as simple as just understanding that you had to go through that to continue your change and to get better, or it was giving you the understanding, the knowledge, the skill set to move forward. Trading is a lot about experience, so that's an easy one, but I want to give you that tool because that can be a huge hurdle to pulling you backwards. Number 5 is one change at a time. One change at a time. If you're looking at your trading and you're like, you know what, I haven't noticed any change in a few months or a few years, you have to understand sometimes change follows slowly, right? It's a deduction business. You're slowly getting rid of things in order to find out what works. So you do have to be a little bit patient with yourself, but you know if things are not changing, especially when we're focused on the execution. If you aren't changing your results, we're not worried about that. But if you're not changing, if you're making the same mistakes, if you're doing the things that didn't work yesterday, the week before, the month before, if you're continuing to do these things, you may need to focus on one thing at a time. And even if you're not doing those things, this is by far the best way to grow. And you do this by, of course, having your trade log, right? Again, if you don't have your trade log, go back and listen to the reasons why on the 2022 expectations video. But of course, that's not you, right? You're taking this game serious. You got your trade log. You're looking at your trade log over the weekend and when the market's not open, and you're highlighting the number one problem from last week. Number one problem. And you say, you know what? Instead of focusing on a whole bunch of things, I'm going to take this one problem and I'm going to smash that shit until it's gone out of my life forever. All right. And then the next week, you're going to do the same thing. And that way you're eliminating things. You're not taking, 50 steps, but it's 5 steps in 10 directions. You're going down the straight and narrow path. So you're focused on one thing. So you realize what the problem was. And let's say you're chasing the market, right? Just as an example, you've realized that because of the data that you have from your trading journal and your trading log from last week. You're going to focus on fixing this problem. That is the only goal of next week's trading. The only goal. All right. Now, with that goal, you want to attack it in 3 ways. You want to have a visual cue, because it's hard to change if you don't remember to change, right? You can say, oh, I was supposed to do this, but I forgot. All right. So you want to have a visual cue. This can be a new indicator that you put up that recognizes the problem. It can be a sticky note that you put, but you want it to be on the forefront of your mind, right? It could be a wristband, something that visually tells you, remember to change. If not, you're going to fall back into those old habits. Now, the second thing you want is an action principle. And again, this could be an indicator. If you are chasing the market and let's say you're getting in late, you might want to have a risk reward tool and it's marked there. If it's past that line, you're not getting in. If you're trading into resistance instead of the little thin line that you've been putting there, you might want to put a thick white line or a thick red line telling you don't do it, right? So you want to have something action-based, something that is now part of your principles, right? What we used to call rules, but part of your principles to take action, right? So you're implementing this into your game plan. Part of my checklist here as I'm entering the market is I don't enter late, right? I don't chase the market, whatever it might be. The next thing you want to do is have a mental tool. And this is for the visual to remember, the action steps so you're actually doing it, the body memory. And then this visual tool is to make sure that we're changing in the mind and we're becoming more of that future self, right? So this can be an affirmation. This can be a prayer that you say before. This can be something that you put into your visualization that says, you know what, the future me always enters the market on time. I always enter the market on time, right? So you want to have some type of visual. And in the book, Trading in My Best Interest, and you can reach out to me if you want that book. There's a tons of cybernetics tools and visualizations and NLP things that you can do for the mental aspect, but you have to include that. You have to have those 3 things in order to really, in a swift way, eliminate that one problem that you're focused on. So that's 5, right? What motivates you? Finding out what has helped you change before. Number 2 is a strong commitment to trading, to doing the thing. Number 3 is that commitment to the future self, and make sure that you have a clear, concise mental picture of what it's like to do that, to be that in the future. All right. That changes. It's different from looking at the goal itself, right? We're talking about what we can control, changing ourselves, merging with that future self. All right, that's number 3. Number 4 is daily reconfirming that, building that relationship. It's easy to say, I'm going to change. A week later goes, you forget, and you just go back to the old self. How many times in life are we just pulled back into being the same person that we were the year before, the last year? It's early in the year. How many years before have you made affirmations and didn't follow through, right? So daily recommitment. Meditation, breathing exercises. Now, the tool that helps that is making sure that you can reframe any hurdles that you face. Shout out to Quasi. that you face during the day. Reframe those in an empowering way so you know that they are aiding you towards your future self. They're not hurdles that mean you're not there, right? And you're not in the recognition of the gap. We're staying in the gain, if you've read that book, Gap and Gain. Now, that's 4B. Number 5 is one change at a time. So you're using your trading log, your trading journal. You're eliminating one problem that you're going to beat the heck out of, and it's not going to show up ever again. You never have to worry about it again, and then you're going to go at it again, right? And if you're committed to doing that for however long it takes, right, you're going to get those results, because slowly, surely, you're going to run out of things to fix. Now, we can always grow in this game, especially as the market changes, but we can grow from a standpoint of the market and not have to change so much in ourselves forever. All right, so that's 5. I hope this was helpful. This is always super fun to create. If you enjoyed this, if you benefited from this information, please share it with a trader you like, share it with a human you like. You can check out videos here. I post kind of sporadically on YouTube, but you can always find the podcast on Sundays and on Thursdays on any of your major platforms, the Spotify, Pandora, Apple, where else? Google, right? Wherever you listen, you'll be able to find it. So I'm out of here. Thanks for listening. Please like, please subscribe, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And remember to be the hero of your story.